Well, hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's me, Jermaine, and I'm back with another Simple Truth update. I've been away for a little while, haven't had the chance to keep up on things as far as some of the breaking news that has happened across the country and across the world. But what I want to come in and speak to you about today and give you an update on is the fact that just about a week ago, on November the 15th, the president signed a very, very aggressive directive or executive order as it pertains to cybersecurity. What I want to share with you and I want you to understand is I want you to be aware that many of the directives and the things that are happening secretly. They are not happening out in the open. We are not being informed except for independent news sources that tell us what is actually happening. It's awful funny that we have to go outside of the borders of this country to hear what is actually happening in this country. And this cybersecurity directive is one that will have a great impact. I want you to understand, I want you to be very focused when I take you and read this article, when I give you information about what's going on. The source is rt.com, that's rt.com. And you will begin to see, as I share with you this article, that it is an ever-growing situation where it seems as if the powers that be are closing more and more in on the everyday people and their freedoms or perceived freedoms. Now, this is something that you can take a look at. You can do some investigation of your own, do some independent thinking, practice some independent thinking, and you make your decision yourself. I'm just giving you something to begin the search, if you choose to, of finding out more information. Check this out, and I'll be right back. Obama secretly signs the most aggressive cybersecurity directive ever, November 15th, 2012. And this comes from rt.com. 6 years after the White House first started running amok on the computer networks of its adversaries, U.S. President Barack Obama has signed off on a top-secret order that finally offers blueprints for the Pentagon's cyber wars. President Obama has autographed an executive order outlining protocol and procedures for the U.S. military to take in the name of preventing cyber attacks from foreign countries, the Washington Post reports. Once and for all, providing instructions from the Oval Office on how to manage the hush-hush assaults against opposing nation-states that have all been confirmed by the White House, while at the same time defending America from any possible harm from abroad. According to the Post sources, namely officials who have seen the classified document and are not authorized to speak on the record, President Obama signed the paperwork in mid-October. Those authorities explained to the paper that the initiative in question, Presidential Policy Directive 20, establishes a broad and strict set of standards to guide the operations of federal agencies in confronting threats in cyberspace. Controlling a threat may sound harmless, but begs to introduce a chicken and the egg scenario that could have some very serious implications. The Post describes the directive as being the most extensive White House effort to date to wrestle with what constitutes an offensive and a defensive action in the rapidly evolving world of cyber war and cyber terrorism. But the ambiguous order may very well allow the U.S. to continue assaulting the networks of other nations, now with a given go-ahead from the Commander-in-Chief. Next in line, the Post says, will be rules of engagement straight from the Pentagon that will provide guidelines for when to carry out assaults outside the realm of what is considered American in terms of cyberspace. What it does, really for the first time, is it explicitly talks about how we will use cyber operations. One senior administration official tells the paper of the policy directive. Network defense is what you're doing inside your own networks. cyber operations is stuff outside that space, and recognizing that you could be doing that for what might be called defensive purposes. When the New York Times published an expose on the White House's so-called Olympics Games program earlier this year, the world became fully aware for once of America's involvement in international cyber war, but much to the chagrin of Washington. Officials, including members of President Obama's national security team, spoke on condition of anonymity to tell the Times that his predecessor, then President George W. Bush, began the program in 2006 to target Iran's nuclear facilities, then passed it along to the current administration to continue under the leadership of the current commander-in-chief. From his first months in office, David Sanger wrote for the Times, President Obama secretly ordered increasingly sophisticated attacks on the computer systems that run Iran's main nuclear enrichment facilities, significantly expanding America's first sustained use of cyber weapons. Congress has fought tooth and nail in the months since to plug any leaks that could potentially spill the beans regarding any further secrets with the potential of affecting national security. But those efforts appear unsuccessful given this week's Post report on Presidential Police Directive 20. Now take the example of Iran. According to the Post, President Obama's signature on last month's directive means the U.S. now has rules and regulations when it comes to protecting its own infrastructure from cyber attack, and can do so by means of launching what appear to be preemptive assaults of their own. It should enable people to arrive at some effective decision, a second senior administration official tells the Post. In that sense, it's an enormous step forward. That comment echoes U.S. Defense Secretary Leon Panetta's insistence earlier this year that defense alone is not enough in terms of keeping this country safe. But what it also seems to do is put on the books a presidential policy that equates an overzealous offense with a solid defense. While the U.S. has cited Iranian hackers as the key players behind a recent attack on the websites of Capital One Financial Corporation and BB&T Corporation, two of the biggest names in the American banking industry, the U.S. has done little on the record to reveal any similar assaults from abroad. Instead, rather, it's relied on fear-mongering to try to convince the country to accept a cybersecurity legislation that will assure America's safety from foreign hackers, all for the small price of sacrificing their digital age privacy. While the Obama White House has failed to acknowledge the Olympic Games program or any involvement in the Stuxnet or Flames viruses linked to the initiative, computer researchers in both the U.S. and Russia have tied Washington to the crippling malicious coding. Earlier this month, California-based Chevron, one of the world's leaders in the oil sector, went public with claims that Stuxnet had infected, but not affected, their computers after the virus was unleashed. The ability to slow down or speed up centrifuges in nuclear facilities from thousands of miles away made Stuxnet a virus that had very substantial powers. Refusing to speak of the Olympic Games program specifically, former CIA chief Michael Hayden told the Times, "This is the first attack of a major nature in which a cyber attack was used to affect physical destruction." According to the Post's latest, though future assaults by way of Stuxnet or similar worms could be considered by Washington as defense mechanisms to make sure Iran doesn't retaliate for what America has long been lashing out with. One source tells the Times that before last month's directive, severing any link between a U.S. computer and an overseas server by any means possible would be an act that would put America on the offensive. Now even a preemptive attack that disconnects other countries could be considered a defensive ploy, according to the president. That was seen as something that was aggressive, particularly by some at the State Department. One defense official tells the Post, with the signing of President Obama's latest order, though the paper writes that the directive effectively enables the military to act more aggressively to thwart cyber attacks on the nation's web of government and private computer networks. It is thought that through the directive, any systems linked even remotely with America's can be fair game for any assault. Given the expansion of cloud computing and the ever-expanding interconnection of communities across the globe on the web, though that could essentially enable Uncle Sam's Cyber Squad to get away with a whole new slew of tricks to try to topple adversaries of any kind that threaten the American way of life. When and where those actions are necessary, of course, remains another topic of discussion. Will those orders be signed in secrecy as well, though? Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The simple truth of the whole matter is that we need to be more conscious about what's going on and try to do our best to quit being worried about being entertained and be more focused on being aware. That's something that is an individual choice. It is something that if you choose to do it, you'll find out these things. But I want you to clearly understand, and I want to clearly note that just because many people will take the position that I don't know about it, I don't care to know about it, that doesn't mean that because you don't know about it or you don't care to know about it, that it is going to go away. And what is happening is going to cease to happen because you make the conscious choice not to be informed or to be aware. This has been The Simple Truth, and as I always tell you, the simple things are oftentimes the most profound, but yet they're the most difficult to put into practice and to actually do. I'll see you and you again real soon, and I want to thank you for joining me.